Good evening. Welcome to Mitv Primetime News. I am Jumoke Michaels. In the news tonight, President Bola Tinubu has sent the names of 32 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation, days after he sent the first batch of 3 names. Among them are former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmood Yakubu, an aide to former President Goodluck Jonathan, Reno Omokri, Delta, and former Enugu State Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, among others. The special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, said in a statement on Saturday that in 2 separate letters to the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, President Tinubu asked the Senate to consider and confirm expeditiously 15 nominees as career ambassadors and 17 nominees as non-career ambassadors. Ononuga noted that in the statement titled, Tinubu nominates 32 additional ambassadors, there are 4 women on the career ambassadors list and 6 women on the non-career ambassadors list. The federal government has announced that the single travel emergency passport will be launched in January 2026 to support Nigerians abroad who lose their passports. The Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, stated that the new system will allow citizens to generate an emergency travel document from any mobile device, removing the need to visit an embassy. In a statement signed on Saturday by Personal Assistant on Special Duties to the President, Kamaruddin Yusuf, the minister said the initiative complements other digital identity reforms, including the ECOWAS National Biometric Identity Card, which enhances regional travel and strengthens border security. The new passport will replace the existing emergency travel certificate and will be valid for a single entry issued through designated Nigerian embassies and consulates. This development forms part of broader efforts by the Nigeria Immigration Service to modernize processes and strengthen identity management. Recent reforms include upgrades to the passport portal, rollout of contactless biometric passport systems in several countries, nationwide expansion of enhanced passport centers, digitization of expatriate permits, and the launch of a centralized passport personalization system capable of producing up to 5,000 passports daily, enabling same-day issuance. Federal lawmakers, top security chiefs, traditional rulers, and senior government officials, including the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, on Saturday converged on Kaduna for a public hearing at the Northwest Zonal Security Summit as banditry and mass abductions escalate across the region. The summit, convened by the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on National Security, is themed Building Robust Regional Collaborations to Tackle Insecurity, Pathways for Securing the Future. Discussions are centered on strengthening interagency cooperation to curb terrorism, banditry, and kidnappings, especially across the 7 states of the Northwest: Kaduna, Katsina, Kano, Jigawa, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara. In recent times, fresh waves of attacks, including mass school abductions, have heightened public concern. Last week, armed men invaded the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School, MAGA, in Kebbi State, abducting at least 24 students and killing a vice principal who attempted to resist. Days later, over 300 students and staff were seized after gunmen stormed St. Mary's Catholic Primary and Secondary Schools in Papiri, Niger State. About 50 of them later escaped, according to authorities. Participants at the summit included Kaduna State Governor Obasani, members of the Senate Committee on National Security, retired military and police chiefs, and traditional rulers, as well as civil society organizations from across the zone. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has described the recent military takeover in Guinea-Bissau as more painful to him than his loss to former President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2015 presidential election. Jonathan, who spoke to newsmen, said the development was particularly troubling because of his long-standing involvement in restoring democracy to the West African country. This forum to monitor the presidential and parliamentary elections. But while observer missions from the African Union, Economic Community of West African States, and other bodies were still carrying out their duties, the military seized power. The development left the former Bayelsa state governor and his team stranded and raised concerns over his safety. Jonathan, from Guinea-Bissau and arrived in Nigeria on Thursday, said the incident unsettled him. He described the situation in Guinea-Bissau as bizarre, arguing that it did not fit the usual pattern of a military coup. Jonathan said President Umaru Embalo's early announcement of his own arrest, while still using his phone to speak to international media, raised questions about the credibility of the claim. According to him, the Guinea-Bissau elections were peaceful, as he cited reports from ECOWAS, AU, and other observer missions. The Labour Party, under the leadership of Senator Nemadi Usman, has submitted a 34-member interim National Working Committee, a list to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The list, which was jointly signed by Usman and the interim National Secretary of the party, Darlington Nwokocha, as interim National Chairman and Secretary, respectively, and dated November 27, was addressed to INEC Chairman Professor Joash Amopito and stamped received by the Commission on Friday. In a cover letter, the Usman-led leadership cited the party's constitution and a July 18, 2025 National Executive Council resolution empowering them to constitute the interim national leadership. They urged INEC to recognize the submitted names. The move was a sequel to a rival NEC meeting convened by Comrade Julius Abure on Thursday, which reaffirmed him as national chairman. Usman and Nwokocha's leadership enjoys the support of Abia State Governor Alex Otti, the party's candidate Peter Obi, and other stakeholders. The fresh list, which was signed by Usman and Nwokocha, noted that the new names superseded an earlier abridged list submitted in August and the ones recently submitted by Abure to the Commission. The Lagos State government, through the Lagos State Primary Health Care Board, has received a healthcare waste incinerator donated from the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. The equipment, now installed at the Agboyi, represents a significant step towards strengthening safe and environmentally responsible healthcare waste management in the state. Speaking at the handover ceremony, the Permanent Secretary of the LSPHCB, Dr. Ibrahim Akiwumi Mustafa, expressed profound appreciation to UNICEF for what he described as a timely and strategic intervention, noting that the donation addresses a critical element of primary healthcare delivery, effective management of infectious and hazardous medical waste. He emphasized that the Lagos State government remains committed to building a resilient and efficient primary healthcare system capable of safeguarding surrounding communities from the dangers of improper medical waste. The Secretary reaffirmed Lagos State's determination to protect public health, preserve the environment, and uphold high standards of care within the primary healthcare system. The chairman of Agboyi K2 LCDA, Aduni Adetola Abubakar, assured stakeholders that the LCDA would ensure the safety, protection, and proper upkeep of the incinerator, recognizing its importance to public health and community well-being. She pledged full support for all activities of the Lagos State Primary Health Care Board, including the adoption of the prototype primary health center model designed to enhance service delivery and improve health outcomes for residents.
Of this narrator to Lagos. Now, I want us to note something. Whatever is done here today is not just serving Agboike. All the vaccine vials that will come from all over the states will come here and other centers. So whatever we are doing is assisting what our governor is doing in terms of healthcare delivery in the state. So we should see it that what we're doing is for the state. Even though we're in Agboike, and Agboike will benefit, other parts of the state will also benefit. So it's a service to humanity.
It's going to make a difference in our waste management, protection of our healthcare workers, and of course, environmental protection. We will maintain it, we'll monitor it, we'll secure it, and ensure proper management of the incinerator. Just like you said, Agboike has been attracting very, very good things. And I'm very sure, I can assure you, my people, this is not the end, it's just the beginning. And like you said also, we're already looking into the healthcare facilities, just like you spoke about. The good part of it is that it is good that you have something to show us, to guide us, because we are already working on that.
Nigerians have been urged to take proactive measures to maintain good health and prevent chronic diseases. The Society of Lifestyle Medicine of Nigeria made this call during its annual International Scientific Conference in Abuja. According to the organization, lifestyle medicine is a new approach to managing chronic conditions through healthy lifestyle habits. Speaking at the event, Dr. Muyosore Makinde, President of the Society of Lifestyle Medicine of Nigeria, expressed concern about the treatment, prevention, and reversal of chronic diseases, especially type 2 diabetes. She noted that chronic diseases often result from poor diet and lifestyle choices, advising everyone to get quality sleep and consume nutritious food to avoid such illnesses. Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the organization, Ifoma Moye, urged everyone to eat healthy, adequate sleep and exercise regularly.
People are addicted to sugar. That is very bad for your health and can lead to many conditions. Also, habits that are of addiction, like being on tech, 20 out of 24 hours. That is so wrong. A lot of our children now, rather than go out to play football, to play basketball, to run around with their friends, they're in front of the computer, their iPhone, their laptop, and so on. So we say that we need to avoid that in order to prevent, treat, or actually reverse the course of chronic illnesses. Now, the fifth one is our mental health and managing of our stress. Again, it doesn't actually need introduction. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of stress in the land. We're saying look for ways in which, in spite of it all, you are still able to manage.
One of the things that we are talking about in this conference is how we can treat, prevent, and reverse chronic disease. One of the chronic diseases that we can reverse is type 2 diabetes. Over time, people's goals in managing diabetes is just to control the blood sugar on medication. And we have a lot of drugs that are being reeled out every now and then for the control of diabetes. But the root cause of type 2 diabetes lies in our behavior, in what we eat, how well we sleep, and all the other components of dreams that were just mentioned. However, we now have evidence that shows that rather than just control the levels of the blood sugar, we can actually reverse diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and bring it into remission so that person is off medication but maintaining his blood glucose and well-being just by practicing or adopting the dreams lifestyle.
You're still watching the Primetime News on MITV. Up next are stories from the foreign scene. We'll bring you details after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. South African police have arrested 4 Russia-bound men at Johannesburg's airport, suspected of having signed up to fight for the Russian army, the force said on Saturday. The announcement comes in the wake of revelations that police were investigating a daughter of ex-President Jacob Zuma over claims she was involved in recruiting men to join Russian mercenaries in the Ukraine war. The 4 arrested at OR Tambo Airport on Thursday and Friday following a tip-off were to be brought before a court near Johannesburg on Monday. Police suspect them of having breached South Africa's law against citizens fighting for a foreign country's army without the government's authorization. A statement from the Elite Hawks Police Unit, which is in charge of the investigation, said a preliminary investigation revealed that a South African female had allegedly been facilitating the travel and recruitment of these individuals into the Russian Federation military. Russian drone and missile strikes in and around Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, have killed at least 3 people and wounded dozens of others, officials said, as Ukrainian representatives travel to the United States for talks on a renewed push to end the war. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha wrote on X on Saturday that Russia shot dozens of cruise and ballistic missiles and over 500 drones at ordinary homes, the energy grid, and critical infrastructure. The Kyiv City Military Administration said 2 people were killed in the strikes on the capital in Kyiv. A woman died and 8 people were wounded in a combined missile and drone attack on the broader Kyiv region, according to the regional police. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said 29 people were wounded in Kyiv, noting that falling debris from intercepted Russian drones hit residential buildings. He also said on Saturday that the airspace above and near Venezuela should be considered closed, the latest escalation in a standoff with leftist leader Nicolas Maduro. Trump wrote on his Truth social network to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Trump's administration is piling pressure on Venezuela with a major military deployment in the Caribbean that includes the world's largest aircraft carrier. Washington says the aim is to curb drug trafficking, but Caracas insists regime change is the ultimate. U.S. forces have carried out strikes against more than 20 alleged Venezuelan drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean since early September, killing more than 80 people. Washington has yet to release evidence that the vessels it targeted were used to smuggle drugs or posed a threat to the United States. Regional tensions have flared as a result of the campaign and the accompanying military buildup. U.S. aviation authorities last week urged civilian aircraft operating in Venezuelan airspace to exercise caution due to the worsening security situation and heightened military activity in or around Venezuela. Canada's latest high between November 13 and 15, 2025 represent one of its most extensive reassessment of security risk in Africa, covering 17 countries on the continent. Over the 3-day period, Global Affairs Canada issued or reaffirmed high-risk advisories for 34 countries worldwide, citing escalating instability, fragile governance, and rising cross-border security threats. The update aligns with a broader international trend of tightened mobility, security, and immigration policies, particularly among Western nations. The move mirrors the increasingly hardline posture of the United States under President Donald Trump, whose administration has emphasized stricter border controls and enhanced scrutiny of high-risk travel routes. Canada says the expanded advisories reflect a mix of armed conflict, extremist violence, unstable political transitions, and rapidly changing conditions dangerous in some areas. Countries such as Somalia, Sudan, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso continue to face active insurgencies and fragmented territorial control. Meanwhile, Ethiopia and Nigeria grapple with volatile political dynamics, mass protests, and localized communal violence. We'll take another break. I will bring you sports news. Welcome back. Super Eagles strikers Victor Osimhen and Paul Onuachu feature prominently among football's elite aerial record holders, with both Nigerians ranking in the top rankings for highest jumps and bicycle kicks. Osimhen currently ranks 5th in football's highest jump records, with a 2.58-meter leap during Napoli's 3-0 victory over Spezia in February 2023. The striker's cardio Alberto Pico. His exceptional leaping ability enables him to connect with crosses easily and have a significant impact in the air, making him one of the world's top attackers. Osimhen has scored 9 goals in 12 games across all competitions for Galatasaray this season. Manchester United in a UEFA Champions League of 16 match in February 2013. Moroccan striker Youssef En-Nesyri ranks 2nd with a 2.78-meter header against Portugal at the 2022 FIFA World Cup quarter-final, while Ugandan defender Bevis Mugabe 2.62 meters and England's Fikayo Tomori 2.61 meters complete the top 5. Foden spared Manchester City's blushes with the last gap winner after the Premier League title challengers blew a second-half collapse at the Etihad Stadium. Foden and Josko Gvardiol had put City 2 up before the interval, but third-bottom leads hit back through Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Lucas Mecha. Foden clinched a nerve-jangling victory that lifted City into second place, 4 points behind leaders Arsenal, who travelled to third-placed Chelsea on Sunday. It was a much-needed win after consecutive defeats against Newcastle last weekend and Bayer Leverkusen on Tuesday. Guardiola's decision to make 10 changes against Leverkusen backfired in a 2-0 loss, prompting the furious Spaniard to claim his players didn't try. Foden, Erling Haaland, Bernardo Silva and Gianluigi Donnarumma were among them. Grabbed a shock equalizer in the 68th minute when Gvardiol fouled Calvert-Lewin. Although Mecha's penalty was saved by Donnarumma, the forward recovered to score from the rebound. Chasing his 100th top-flight goal, Haaland was unusually subdued, but Foden picked up the slack in stoppage time, cleverly creating space in the area for an ice-cold finish as Guardiola breathed a sigh of relief. Oscar Piastri boosted his bid for a Maidens Drivers' World Championship on Saturday when he reduced McLaren teammate Lando Norris's lead to 22 points by winning the sprint race at the Qatar Grand Prix. Driving with assurance after a fine start from pole position, the 24-year-old Australian delivered a cool drive reminiscent of his early season domination to finish 4.951 seconds clear of Mercedes's George Russell, with Norris 1.3 seconds adrift in third. Four-time champion Max Verstappen came home fourth for Red Bull, ahead of teammate Yuki Tsunoda and teenage rookie Kimi Antonelli in the second Mercedes. The later two were both handed 5-second penalties for exceeding track limits. Piastri's third consecutive sprint race win at Lusail International Circuit trimmed Verstappen dropped further behind by a point to 25 points behind the Briton. It was Piastri's first success since he won the Dutch Grand Prix on August 31 when he led the title race. And that's the Primetime News on MITV. Thanks for staying with us. I am Jumoke Michaels. Good night.